There's no arguing that at present, Tinseltown seems to be a bit of a dumpster fire, and that's putting it quite mildly. The overproduction of stale, cash-driven spectacles has left audiences frustrated and underwhelmed, and with seemingly no end in sight, it's clear the powers that be desperately need an injection of new and original ideas. While far from perfect, the horror genre continues to be one of the few areas of the filmmaking sphere that's still accepting of those truly outside-the-box ideas, unafraid to take chances on projects that are a little less Hollywood and a little more avant-garde. Recently, there seems to be an influx of these unconventional projects. Skinamarink, Mandy, I Saw the TV Glow, each time stretching further what it means to be a horror film. Throughout its nearly 100-year history, the genre has dramatically evolved and adapted to reflect cultural anxieties and the contemporary pop culture zeitgeist. From films of the 1920s and 30s that played on gothic visuals and silent film expressionism, to the meta-horror of the 1990s, it all came together in the form of the elevated horror we know and love today. In its current iteration, horror movies traditionally require a particular set of components in order to categorically set themselves apart from other genres. Now you might ask, Professor Diet Dr. Paul, just what are these incredibly essential concepts? Well, my little dearies, I'm so glad you asked. Throughout my many years imbibing that sweet, sweet nectar that is horror movies, I've come across three particular elements necessary for a horror movie to be, well, a horror movie. It needs to include either fear-inducing scares, visceral gore, or camp, a comedic value used to offset the film's tension. And if it's void of all three, then it's not a bloody horror movie. End of story. Let me be clear, this isn't some thought that just recently popped into this old noggin. No, this is a tried and true scientific fact, an immutable law of the universe, one that is stationed squarely beside the hill I will joyfully die on. That is, until I sat down to watch Steven Soderbergh's most recent release, Presence, which proceeded to blow my lifelong hypothesis to shit. Instead, he delivers a compelling horror experience devoid of these components by producing a feature that employs a minimalist approach, choosing to focus on psychological depth and atmospheric storytelling. At first glance, it resembles your standard haunted house fare, but is in truth an entirely different monster. Haunting yet graceful, Presence is a visual ballet that sets out to let the audience piece its way through a life-altering scenario, more so than presenting a straightforward narrative. More than anything, Presence is the anti-Hollywood poster child, the straight-up opposite of everything the money-making machine wants out of a feature, aside from its sickly short runtime of around 90 minutes. Presence is uniquely narrated from the perspective of an unseen spirit, putting the audience directly in the center of the story, turning them into a sort of omnipotent bystander. The first-person viewpoint transforms the camera into an active character, fostering an intimate connection between the audience and the restless spirit, and like a pile-up on the 405, I simply could not look away. The story begins with what we can only assume is the origin or inception point for the film's chief protagonist, the ghostly specter aimlessly wandering through an empty house as it attempts to understand its surroundings. Enter a real estate agent, played by Julia Fox, who arrives to show the property to the Payne family, which consists of Mom Rebecca, played by Lucy Liu, a narcissistic type A personality with a penchant for terrible parenting and even worse business acumen. Chris Sullivan plays the father, a gentle giant who's desperate to keep his family from falling apart. Their teenage son Tyler, played by Eddie Mayday, is a champion swimmer and golden child who lacks any semblance of empathy, a real chip off the old block. And then there's daughter Chloe, played by Kalina Liang, a teen struggling with the tragic loss of her best friend Nadia, who recently died due to a suspected drug overdose. Not long after the family moves into their new home, Chloe begins to sense something unseen lurking somewhere inside the house, but her claims are met with mostly vitriol from her mother and brother. Later, Tyler introduces Chloe to his new friend from school, Ryan, a smooth-talking popular kid who instantly takes a liking to her. One day after school, the two teens partake in a weed brownie, which leads to the discussion of death and story of Nadia's passing. As Chloe begins to cry, Ryan attempts to console her, but it's not long before his true intentions start to show. His fixation on control and obsession with death reveal an underlying motive that goes all but unnoticed by the inebriated Chloe. Angered by the teens' attempt to become intimate, the spirit rips down the shelves inside Chloe's closet, causing them to collapse. Ryan blames shoddy craftsmanship, and they laugh the incident off as nothing more than side effects from their high. Fast forward to one evening, and Tyler is regaling his family with a vile story, in which he and his friends trick a classmate into sharing nude photos of herself on social media. Rebecca, oozing with the worst boy mom vibes ever seen, is indulgent in his abhorrent behavior, while Chloe and Chris are disgusted. The Presence responds to Tyler's story by once again flying into a rage, and angrily destroying his room, all but proving its existence to the rest of the family in the process. Out of options and unsure where to turn, Chris contacts the realtor, who insists that no one previously died in the home, or it would have been disclosed before the sale. Sensing a great deal of urgency in the family, the realtor mentions she knows someone who may be able to help. Someone with extrasensory capabilities. In probably the most important scene in the entire film, we meet the aforementioned medium, who shares some much needed information to not just the Payne family, but the viewer itself. It's revealed that Chloe is in fact sensitive to spirits due to some past trauma, causing her doorway to open up permanently, and that the presence they've been experiencing is trapped in their home for an unknown purpose. We also learn that the spirit perceives time differently, and that past and present can be happening simultaneously. One thing is certain, it's there for a reason, and not going anywhere in the meantime. The medium would later return to warn Chris that the presence is here to prevent something bad from happening, something to do with the window that doesn't open. Cut to a few days later to see Ryan and Chloe engaging in carnal activities, with the presence watching from inside her closet. While in the shower, any questions about Ryan's plans or motive are completely wiped away when he attempts to drug Chloe by putting fentanyl in her orange juice. The presence intervenes once more by knocking the glass on the ground before she can drink it. Unfazed by the poltergeist activity, Ryan and Chloe make plans to spend the night together while her parents are away on a business trip, even though Tyler will still be home. Ryan tells her not to worry and promises to deal with it because, quote, boy's got Ambien written all over him. The following week, with both parents categorically out of the picture, Ryan arrives and wastes no time putting his little plan into action. Because ladies certainly love a man of action, don't they? And for Ryan, that includes drugging your new best friend with sleeping pills and killing his little sister. Ryan's intentions are indeed much more sinister than we ever could have anticipated, as we come to learn he's the person responsible for Nadia's death. Ryan's third attempt at drugging Chloe is successful, resulting in her complete incapacitation. He delights in the details of her best friend's murder, recounting how he used a piece of ultra-thin plastic wrap to cut off her air supply, causing what looks like to be a standard drug overdose. The presence, watching all this unfold, attempts to intervene once more by waking up Tyler from his comatose state. After a number of frantic attempts, Tyler comes to and immediately senses something is wrong. Stumbling up the stairs and into Chloe's room, Tyler finds Ryan straddling his sister. Without hesitation, he tackles Ryan and the two fall out of a nearby window to their death. The final scene shows the remaining three members of the Payne family as they load up the last of their possessions. Rebecca, sensing something is off, finds herself in front of the old antique mirror in the living room, where she's surprised to see Tyler's reflection. Coming full circle and having fulfilled his purpose, Tyler's apparition disappears as his mother breaks down uncontrollably. A powerful and somewhat jarring ending to an altogether different type of movie-going experience. There was really only one word that came to mind after watching Presence: poignant. Reminiscent of films like Session 9, The Godfather of Slow Burns, Presence spurns traditional jump scares and graphic violence, electing instead to slowly build tension through the family's toxic dynamics and ghost subtle interactions, prioritizing a smart, thought-provoking horror story about a family's breaking point and their white-knuckled struggle with fate. Don't be fooled, this case study is far from a perfect film, especially in the exploration of the parents' relationship and their struggles both professionally and at home. To put it bluntly, there was a ton of meat left on the bone. I desperately want to know what shady deals Rebecca was involved with. I mean, they had to be bad enough for Papa Bear to be considering divorce. And while likable, he's left without much to do aside from two extremely short conversations that take place during the film's final act. There's also very little connective tissue between scenes, leaving them at times to feel disjointed and muddled. Or the fact that some scenes feel very sterile and effete, as if they were manufactured specifically for this purpose. The critics' consensus is that Presence lacks the standard window dressings often associated with the horror genre, but it more than compensates with profound levels of unease and a visual mastery that borders on ostentatious. The film's strength without a doubt lies in its ability to explore themes of grief, relationships, control, and the search for understanding beyond our physical realm. By stripping away the expected horror tropes, Soderbergh invites viewers to engage with the narrative on a more complex and cerebral level, resulting in a bone-chilling experience that will linger with viewers long after the credits roll. More casual moviegoers could potentially struggle with this film and may want to avoid it altogether, as its pace and lack of action will certainly be an issue. In redefining boundaries of horror, Presence exemplifies how genre films, and Hollywood as a whole, can evolve to embrace psychological complexity and atmospheric nuance, more so than stuffing another MCU movie down our gullets. Proving without a doubt that horror can indeed exist outside the gore, scares, and laughs it normally depends on. Instead, it can draw power from the unseen, the unspoken, and the deeply personal, offering audiences a fresh perspective on what it means to be truly haunted. 7.7 out of 10. Don't forget to like and subscribe.